Okay, so my son's in Beavers at the moment. He's come home in the summer, at the end of the summer term, with quite a few badges to sew on. I have sewn someone already, but what I'm thinking is I thought I would save one to show you how I sew them on so that we can sew it on together. So with the Beaver badges, I'm never 100% sure on where they go. I don't want to get it wrong because I'm doing it and sewing it again later. It takes time. So what I did was I looked online and I just searched for Beaver badge placement, and I got a lovely picture of the Beaver jumper, and it's telling me that I needed to sew it onto the left hand sleeve. So I am following the line of the shoulder, and there's a little crease all the way down. I'll show you. So the crease is very faint as it goes, but there's sort of a halfway line. So I'm trying as best I can to get them on that line and all lined up symmetrically. I know that the dark purple edged badges need to go at the top, so I'm going to place this one here. I've noticed as well that we haven't got any more space for any of the dark purple ones, so what I'm going to do and what I'm thinking is that if we get any more of those purple badges, I might move one or two of these down to the end here to make room for the any more purple badges we get. But for now, I like the look of it all being together, so I don't need to do any preparation work at the moment. And I'm just going to sew this final badge on now with you. So what I'm going to do is I've got my space, I know where it's going to go. I want to be able to hold it in place, so I'm going to get a pin and I'm just going to pop it through. And out the other side, I want to check that it's nice and straight. I want to make sure it's lined up and I'm happy with the placement before I start. I want the scouting symbol to be straight, and those two look really similar, but when you look up close they are different. So we haven't got a repeat badge on there. If we did, what I would do is take the repeat one back to Beavers for them to reuse it and give it to someone else. So I'm going to choose my thread now. I've got some threads here, all different colours. I got these on Amazon. There are lots of different colours, perfect for badge sewing actually, because they're all different shades of colours. I have got even more somewhere else, they didn't quite all fit in. So I'm going to have a look at my badge, and I want to go for the colour that the embroidered edge is. So this one looks a little bit light, so I'm going to choose one which is a bit darker, which I know I've used for the others as well. So that's this one. So now I'm going to get my needle. I've kept my thread on from the last badge I was sewing on, so I know this is my badge sewing needle. I'm going to thread it through the eye of the needle. Sometimes if the ends get a bit frayed, just wet your fingers and roll it in your fingers so that you can then thread it a bit more easily. Now I like to do a little bit more thread than I need, because I don't want to get halfway round and then have to finish off my thread and then restart with a new thread. So I'd rather it have a bit more than I need than run out halfway round. So now I've got my thread. I like to do it double width, so it's double strength. I'm going to tie 3 knots in the end just to make it absolutely secure. I don't want it undoing as I'm sewing, but also I don't want it to keep undoing at another time, because this jumper's going to get worn and washed a lot, so I want it to be nice and firmly in place. So those are my 3 knots now, all on top of each other at the end. I'm going to make sure it's equal, and then what I'm going to do, I keep my hand in where I'm sewing, just I'm being careful not to poke myself with a needle, but equally I don't want to go through and start stitching the sleeves together. So my hand is going to keep a bit of a barrier between the two sides of the sleeve. I'm going to start at the bottom because there's a little bit whether the embroidery started and finished as well. Also, I want to be careful. I want to make sure I definitely get it the right distance here. So I'm starting at the bottom because that's where I want to take most care. So it's shifting a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to hold it firmly. I'm going to put my needle through the back of, partly through the jumper and then all the way through the badge. I want to get it to the edge, so I'm sewing, my stitches are going to be within this. So I'm pushing my needle through. I'm going to stop when I get to the knot. Then I'm going to tuck the ends of the knot under the badge because I want them to be hidden. And then what I'm going to do next is go under or over the top even, and then I'm going to catch the jumper and push it through the edge. And I want to go for about a fingernail width apart. You can go bigger, you can go smaller. The thing with going bigger with the stitches is that because these are round, you might find then that your stitches cut across and then you end up seeing your stitches cutting across this dark blue area here. So I want to keep my stitches hidden really as much as possible. They'll never be completely hidden, but a little bit hidden is fine. So I'm catching the back of the jumper and I'm going through, all the way through the badge, wrapping the thread through and then pulling my needle all the way through. So that's my first blanket stitch. And then I'm going to fingernail width apart again, catch the back of the jumper and then all the way through the badge, wrap the thread around and to pull it through. I'm going to do finger width apart again and wrap my thread around and then pull nice and tight. Right, you can see the pin's a bit in the way, so I'm just going to push it through a bit more so it's not in my way now for the next stitch. Catch, jumper and all the way through the badge, wrap round the thread and the needle and pull. I'm going to keep going all the way round. I'm just going to check that it's going in the right direction. It is. Sometimes they can get a little bit wonky as they go. I'm going to turn it a little bit. Still going to keep that hand in so I don't sew it to the back. And then catch the jumper and all the way through the badge. Wrap the thread around and pull. Now when I push the needle through, I'm using my nail rather than my finger, because sometimes the back of these can be really quite sharp and yeah, I don't want them to be going through my finger. So fingernail width apart, wrap the thread around and pull nice and tight. And again, and then when I get to the end I'll show you what I do to finish the badges off, or finish the thread off for the badge. Okay, so I'm going round. I'm trying to move my fingers as best I can while keeping my hand as much as possible in the jumper to stop it accidentally getting sewn to the back. Round, wrap the needle, thread around the needle and pull. So I'm nearly halfway round. When I get halfway round, I'll take the pin out. Starting to go out already. Round. So I'm holding in a slightly different position. It'll find it easier when I'm working around. You'll find it's comfortable for you, but yes, do feel free to move with the badge and the sewing as you go. So I'm going to take the pin out because I'm most of the way round now. It's straight, I'm happy with where it's sitting. It's probably not going to move anymore at this point. And we'll do the last few stitches. Catch the jumper and through the badge. And this will be my last stitch. I'm back round at the beginning again. So I'm just going to do my last blanket stitch. And then to finish it off, what I'm going to do is put it as best I can through the hole I've just been through. So I'm going up and over and through and out the other side. So I can feel, put it nice and tight, I can feel the badge that I've just sewn on. And what I'm going to do now is just put the needle through the badge, but also pinch the back of the badge at the same time. So I've caught the badge and the jumper as well. And what I want to do is make sure I haven't gone through the badge itself, because if I can see my needle, I know that I'm going to get a thread visible, and I don't want that when I have to turn it around at the end. So I'll put my needle in and out, and then I'm going to wrap it around twice. You can wrap it around more, but I tend to find it gets more tangled when you do that, so I'm just going to put it nice and gently through. And that's my first knot. And then I'm going to do the same again, just check I haven't gone through the badge. And then I'm going to just wrap it around twice, push the needle on. I'm going to do this 3 times because this jumper is going to get worn and washed a lot. I want to make sure that it's not going to come off in the wash or come untied. So wrap it around twice, pull it through, and that's the 3rd time. And then I'm just going to cut it at the end. I'm going to leave a little bit of thread there because I want to be able to pull it if it starts to get loose again. I don't find it ever does, but just in case, it just gives me that opportunity to put it tight again rather than having to sew it all on. So that's the badge. I'm going to start at the